The digital world moves fast, but real growth comes from real conversations. This is e-Coffee with Experts, where marketers and founders share what's actually working in SEO, AI, and digital growth. Grab your coffee and fuel your mind as we chat with top minds about their wins, struggles, and lessons you won't find in a blog post. Brought to you by Digital Web Solutions, we bring real talk to help you grow your business, one episode at a time. Let's get started.
Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to your show E-Coffee with Experts. This is your host Ranmay here, and today we have Brian Reilly, who is the managing director at BankBound with us. Hey Brian, how's it going?
It's going well. Thanks, Ranmay.
Lovely. BankBound, quite an interesting name, Brian. Give us the story behind it.
Yeah, it's sort of the combination of our focus, which is financial institutions in the United States, primarily banks, but also our passion, which is inbound marketing, right? So you can kind of see the two pieces coming together there to make BankBound, which is really all in all what we do and what we're passionate about at BankBound is helping banks grow through inbound channels.
All right, lovely. Now, give us a bit about yourself, Brian. How were you growing up as a kid, and how come you landed up in the digital marketing space? So give a bit about us. I'm sure none of us, had actually planned of a career in digital marketing per se. So what is your story?
Sure. Yeah, it's funny how you land where you do, I suppose.
Yeah.
But for me, I mean, thinking back on it, as a kid, I did really love just memorizing and sort of rehearsing TV commercials. I always thought billboards were fascinating. I guess so. Kind of thinking back on it, maybe it's not so surprising that I landed into a space where we're solving problems and trying to go about it with creative and resonating messaging. Yeah, that's kind of my background as far as growing up. Was always interested in sort of creative problem solving.
Lovely. And talk us through the overall decision making of what triggered that decision to start your own agency, Brian. Starting your own agency is not an easy call to make. Yeah. So what triggered that overall thinking of starting your own, first of all, entrepreneurship, and then obviously a digital marketing agency?
Sure. Yeah, I think for me, just working through some different agencies myself, I was getting a little bit burned out trying to learn so many different verticals and so many markets. And I just sort of had this idea that if we could double down on a single vertical, I could really just learn so much more, bring so much more value. And that, when we landed on the banking space, it just made it a lot easier to make the jump because we're really, all in on a particular client. We can understand their challenges and just be a better partner.
Yeah, niching down to scale up, right?
Exactly.
All right, Brian, let's jump into the, banking and financial space. How do you feel marketing for banks and financial institutions, overall, is as different from the other industries out there?
I would say so. I think, there are a number of industries in the U.S. that are highly regulated, banking being one of the most highly regulated industries. So things move a little slower. I think marketing is a little bit more conservative and probably for good reason. But yeah, the space is crowded, it's competitive, and our typical engagement is supporting those local regional banks that they just need the help. They're up against some pretty specific and challenging regulatory environment. They have a lot of competitors. And so there's definitely a need, for digital marketing.
Absolutely. And obviously the banks and, especially the regional ones kind of feel the heat, right? So when you talk to these setups, in your experience, what do you feel are the biggest mistake financial institutions make when it comes to digital marketing? And, what is your advice to them in terms of, trying to avoid it?
Yeah, I think, you wouldn't suspect it at this point in time, but I think a lot of local banks especially are still just relying on more traditional channels. The digital marketing is still not yet a real emphasis. It's not a strategic priority. So that's definitely a miss. We know that it's just a growing need for really every vertical, but for those banks that do jump into digital marketing, the one thing that I often find is a sort of a mismatch of investment is the KPIs, right? So they're going after more high-level engagement, leading KPIs that are perhaps fun to track, views, impressions, that sort of thing. But we really need to tie that performance to business objectives and business growth. And so connecting the dots there is something that is really critical as far as it pertains to digital marketing success.
Absolutely. And, talking about banks and obviously the age-old, question about SEO versus PPC, what do you think about, about this particular niche, banking and financial institution? What works better than the other? Or give us your take on this.
Sure. Like as far as what works with SEO in banking?
What works better? SEO versus PPC.
Oh, I see. I got you. Yeah. I think, there's really room for both. Obviously, I think they both are quite complementary. But for banks that are in a space where they have a dedicated local footprint, SEO is just a fantastic opportunity for them to really leverage the retail physical footprint that they have into the digital space. And that's a unique advantage that they have over some of the larger banks that are in many, many different markets, but not one particular market. So I think that really helps them quite a bit. Pay-per-click has, of course, its advantages as well, as so long as the bank has a specific audience or perhaps a specific vertical or promotion that they want to get out there. But I would say the foundation of local marketing, really, I think SEO is extremely critical there.
Lovely. And then most SEO content and finance, feels like a clone factory because there is only as much that you can, kind of play around with it, right? So what is your approach to creating content that actually resonates and ranks?
It's a great question. Yeah, so we know that like most every publisher out there on the affiliate side, all the big banks, the digital banks, they've got almost any topic you could think of related to financial wellness or literacy sort of covered extensively. So the way that we really break out and support local and community banks with better content that performs ahead of those bigger players is to really localize it. Again, so going after either a specific audience, maybe a very niche audience, or a very niche market. And so, like I mentioned before, those big banks might be writing content about a particular topic generically, but to bring it down to a local level, to bring in local resources, local insights, local voices is really a differentiator for that content. And that's where we see better performance. It resonates more, engagement is higher, and of course we can rank on a local level much more effectively.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, since we are talking about content, how can we leave not talking about AI? What is your general take on it, Brian? And what is the best use of AI that you're making at your own agency that you're really excited about?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, and we get that question a lot anymore. It's like, why would we bother writing content if we can just spin it up with AI? So I think somewhere in the middle is where we typically land. We want to understand, like, how do we find the best topics, the best data, and leverage that to really create useful themes for the audiences that we want to reach. And then we'll layer that AI research and insight on top of our team's human expertise in the way of making sure that the content is original, it's accurate. Of course, we need to make sure it's compliant. So I think there's really a hybrid combination of AI and human effort that we're finding success with in the way of content creation. So that's, of course, like at this point in time, at this day, everything is changing so rapidly in the AI space. But at this point in time, I think that it's been a real gain, in the way of how we're able to just really enhance the content we're already producing.
Absolutely. All right, quickly, give us your, your go-to AI tool now.
Yeah, I mean, AI, our team's still in ChatGPT, but we're playing around all the time with everything else out there. I mean, Grok has been pretty interesting. Some of the image generators, and Facebook has like an image generator that's is constantly evolving and kind of moving things along. And not to mention, I feel like every tool that we have has somehow embedded or inserted an AI tool of some kind in there to help with data, with research, with image creation. I'd say we're all over the map. I don't think we really landed on anything quite yet, but we have plans to get there in the future, and of course we're going to continue exploring it.
Obviously, there's so much coming up, each day, each week, each month. So you got to keep exploring, right? So,
absolutely.
And in your experience, talking about the banking ecosystem at large, how and talking about customer acquisition, how do you feel that, the digital first customers, can be retained? I mean, what are the most effective ways to do it?
Yeah, retaining digital first customers can be a challenge. I mean, it's one thing to get somebody with a special rate promotion or some one-time offer. We really want to make sure that those customers are increasing their engagement immediately, right from the start. So email automation is a good channel for that, direct mail, digital ads. There's a couple different ways to do it, but we have to make sure we have very relevant offers to get them to adopt various technologies, especially mobile banking. That's a really high touch point, high frequency touch point for banks. So helping them understand the benefit of mobile banking, their app, or just online banking in general, specific features, how they can really help the user or the business improve their financial lives right from the start. That's really critical. And then, of course, we've got to introduce products that are relevant to them. So perhaps a credit builder product for someone who's just starting out in their financial life, or maybe a HELOC product that is more relevant for a homeowner, for example. So relevance, I think, is really the key there. and also just building engagement as soon as possible.
Lovely, lovely, Brian. Thank you so much for the insights. This has been a great conversation. But before we let you go, a quick rapid fire.
Sure, let's do it.
All right. Since we're talking about SEO, your last Google search.
My last Google search was for a good restaurant for Mother's Day. I'm trying to stay ahead of it. You know, for my wife and my mom, we've got to celebrate in a good way. So I'm looking for a good place to eat.
All right. Okay. Your favorite vacation spot?
Oh, man, Florida is tops for me. I mean, it's hot in the summer, don't get me wrong, but the beach, the water, and just the kind of the pace, you know, for us marketers, we've got to slow down sometimes. Yeah. So Florida makes a great destination for that.
All right. What did you do with the first paycheck, Brian? First paycheck of your life?
First paycheck. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm reaching back 100 years to try and guess what that might have been going to. But I mean, I've always been a saver. I loved saving money as a younger kid. So
entrepreneur.
Yeah, I was probably dumping it into a bank and watching the pennies of interest kind of accumulate there. But probably not something too exciting.
All right, typical entrepreneur from a very young age, I must say.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Moving on. Where do we find you on Friday evenings, Brian? Post office or post work? Now let's kind of make this more interesting for us.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, after work, so I've got young kids at home. We're definitely, at that point looking to just get out and slow down, enjoy the weekend. We're usually looking for a good place to eat where I'd say my kids and my wife and I, we're all, just sort of foodies. We love to try new stuff. So we're always on the hunt for a new restaurant or a new place to get something good to eat.
All right. The last one will not grill you any further. Yeah. Your celebrity crush.
Celebrity crush. Oh, man. I mean, Rand Fishkin was like my man crush for a long time.
Okay.
In the Moz space, he has such good hair and, such eloquent approach to SEO and all the technical background. I've always appreciated his work for sure. So, yeah, being a digital marketing nerd, he was one I followed pretty extensively over the years, even after he left Moz.
Lovely. Can imagine that. All right, Brian, thank you so much for your time, and for doing this with us. For audiences, if they want to reach out to you, how would they do that?
Sure. Yeah, you can look for bankbound.com to learn more about what we offer. We've got tons of resources there for financial marketers. So, yeah, let us know if we can be of any help to you. Thanks again for having me on here, Ranmay.
Cheers, Brian.